Hey everyone, Tin Man here. I think we're good. I think this is working. Alright, sorry for a little bit of a delay. I'd hoped to get this started up a touch earlier. But it's all good. We got it all sorted out. So we're going to be casting the ESL Mobile Open Tournament here, I hope. Assuming this is all working out the way I think it should be. May not be. Bear with me for a moment. Ah, I see. So apparently there's a duplicated event. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Alright, now we're into it. Alright, so, hey everyone, Tin Man here. We are going to be playing some, or I'm not actually going to be playing any Dota Underlords, actually. I'm going to be watching Dota Underlords. And I need to update some stream settings. But it looks like we're good, despite some challenges to get everything started up. We're going to be spectating this lobby here of the ESL Mobile Open Tournament. So I'll just be a spectator, but I'll be bringing all the sweet action. Hey, what's up, Shinta X? How you doing? Welcome, welcome. I'll be like spectating and casting here. So once the games are started, I will not be as I'll not be like as engaged with chat. I'll be kind of like, you know, focused on casting, and probably not be talking with chat too much during the actual games. But in between games, we'll have plenty of time to chat. Well, we might not have plenty of time, but we'll have some time to chat. So, gonna have some really good players here. We got Fresnel, Gripsy, a couple other Pouty Panda, some other like really high-ranking players who've been doing really well in this tournament. So I can't wait to see what they're up to and how this is gonna go. Hey Giovanni, how you doing? Welcome to the ESL Mobile Open Underlords Tournament. I'll be casting the event. I'm not actually playing in it, but I will be bringing you all the action from this lobby here, which is going to be pretty strong already from just a couple people we already see. And looks like we're going to be getting into it in Game 1 here. Looks like they're going to be a couple players short, so we may, you know, we're just going to have a 6-player lobby here, but we'll be cheering for Declan Bot and Amina Bot. I believe they said that they'll have 2 more players coming in for Game 2 and 3. They're just a little bit late due to traffic and other things. So let's follow Fresnel here. That's who we defaulted to, and also probably one of the higher ranking players here. Actually, Fresnel, Swift Panther don't have any rankings, but last time I checked, Fresnel was in top 10, or at least was at one point in the recent past. And Pouty Panda is actually currently is at a 15. It looks like a 15 to me. They make the font really small. So really good players here. We're gonna I'll probably take this lobby a little bit, maybe casting a little bit more casually, maybe do a little bit more chat interaction. But then on the future ones, hopefully once we get up to 8 people, I'll be a little more narrow focus, because I also want to turn that into a full video length, standalone video as well. But anyway, we see Fresnel here up against Band, who, let's just take a quick look around the lobby here. Band, also Lord of Whitespire. We do have Sleep and Gripsy, not quite in Lord of Whitespire, but still pretty respectable ranks. Certainly better than Aminabot and Declan Bot. That's for sure. But we do see Fresnel here barely edging out over Band with their early Eidolons, the Primordial buff. Now, this is not a buff that I'm a big fan of. I think it's, frankly, kind of worthless. But it does... it is pretty effective in the very early game, like the opening 3 to 4 rounds, where an extra 600 health is, you know, not insignificant. Fresnel does manage to get a 2-star Bounty Hunter together. Now that puts you in the direction of Assassins or Scrappies. Both of them very much value a 2-star Bounty Hunter. We'll see if we'll see if either of those really comes to fruition here. It does opt to put the chainmail back on the bounty hunter because it has more health, therefore gives more effective HP because of the armor reduction here. Isaiah, I'm streaming your match. Which one are you in this match? I hope you're Amina bot, or maybe Declan bot. You're Sleep, by the way. Ah, okay. Well, I was kind of hoping you were Amina and or Declan bot. Fair enough. Got a good start there. We'll check in with you in a little bit here. We're gonna follow Fresnel's for the opening rounds here. And then, hopefully, I believe Gripsy had said that 2 more should be joining in games 2 and 3 of the lobby, so hopefully by that point we'll get up to all 8 people for the rest of the day. So, Fresnel on a 2-round win streak here on the back of a very powerful 2-star Bounty Hunter. No one else really has any 2 stars except for Swift Panther as a 2-star Bloodseeker, which we saw was much worse than the Bounty Hunter because he kind of just kills himself fairly quickly in these kind of fights without a damage item. I feel like you should have put the Morbid Mask on him, but Swift Panther actually opts to sell off the Bounty Hunter, or the 2-star Bloodseeker, going kind of an open fort-esque strategy. We're just like intentionally losing here. Fresnel up against Declan bot should get the win here, leveling up to put in a 1-star Slarder, who's still very efficient in the early game. And actually Tinker surprisingly pulling a lot of weight in this composition. I was a little bit surprised by that because normally you don't see Tinker doing that incredibly well. But by placing him up on the front line here and getting the Scrappy bonus, he was able to survive long enough, grab his mana, and cast a couple of heat-seeking missiles to deal lots of damage. And there was also a little sweet thing that we saw here at the very end was Fresnel decided to play the Slarder for the turn, which was strong. A 2-star or a 1-star Slarder is stronger than like any of the other 1-stars that he had available. But then at the end of combat, selling off that Slarder and buying a pair of Nyx Assassins, which obviously pairs well with the Bounty Hunter in either a Scrappy build because you want to grab insects with Weaver, or just in an Assassin build because they're both Assassins, obviously. And did get lucky and find the 2-star right away, so that's pretty sweet. Dev Travel, I'm not actually playing in these games. These are the tournament games for the ESL Mobile Open. Little ad down in front of me. So I won't actually be playing any games tonight, at least not until 3 games of this go by. Is there another timer? Oh, there's the timer. We'll just be casting games here tonight. Hopefully this first one I'm going to be a little bit more, casual in casting, where we have 2 bots in the game, but I hope we'll get a full lobby for games 2 and 3, because it's best of 3, essentially, for the tournament. And then at that point, we'll go into kind of full caster mode. We do see Fresnel here trying to defend a win streak up against Band. It does have the 2-star Treant, which is very powerful, especially with the chainmail. I think that should be good enough to win the fight. I don't really see how a bunch of 1-star insects are going to get through a 2-star Treant. Doesn't look to be the case, and Fresnel does complete a win streak here, or continue a win streak, not complete it just yet. But he has opted to pick up a whole bunch of Knights here. Chaos Knight, Abaddon, Omni Knight, and a pair of Omni Knights. That is a powerful combo, and also opting to pick up the Dazzle here, sell off the Tinker, pretty much saying not going to go Scrappies. Partially because there's some other Scrappies already in the lobby, and thinking that Knights and Healers may be a good direction to go. That'll be very interesting to see if that actually ends up working. Kind of want to check out his shop here. He does find a 2-star Omni Knight, and that is a lot of power. And I think 2-star Omni Knight's actually really strong. He's opting to sell them off for interest, actually, just deciding that Omni Knight and Knights in general are not the way to go. That is very unusual to me, because did sell off the Scrappy to grab Dazzle, to me indicating that Healers was a potential path, and get the 2-star Omni Knight and just decided, nope, that's not what we want. Instead, we want to grab interest. That's not necessarily the direction I would have taken it, but I wouldn't I'm not going to say it's wrong just yet because Fresnel is a very well-respected player, so I'm very curious to see how he navigates this situation here, opting instead to pick up more assassin focus. I guess the thought is that assassins are a much stronger meta composition as opposed to either scrappies or knights, and already having two-star assassins, and with what seems to be a little competition. I mean, the Declan bot is picking up some assassins, but they don't really count. It is looking like Swift Panther is picking up assassins, though, with a pair of Ember Spirits, pair of Queen of Pain. So I'd be a little nervous if I was Fresnel here. There may be some competition for the assassins, and not that you don't have a good start towards it, but I'm just always afraid when there are competition for a very linear and rigid game plan build, such as assassins, where you don't have too much variation that you can afford. You pretty much need the assassin that you need. I would definitely be a little concerned that that there would be competition for those units. Oh, sorry, I had a program running in the background. My graphics driver program crashed on me. I just closed that out. Seems like it's working anyway. Sorry for that little pop-up. Anyway, so Fresnel, a 1 away from completing the win streak here. It hasn't opted to do anything crazy, and by crazy I mean like level up to 6 or re-roll excessively. Just looking around the lobby and thinking, yeah, I'm stronger than most opponents here, that willing to take a risk essentially to complete this win streak. And it's actually a really big risk because it also has 29 gold. So does manage to complete the win streak here against Pouty Panda, who's got, I'm not even entirely sure what this is. It's a Heartless build. Heartless Brutes Knights. An odd combination here. Not particularly powerful at this exact moment. Certainly not against the 2-star Treant Protector. And Fresnel does complete the win streak, gets a massive influx of gold, has by far the highest net worth in the game right now, up over 11 over Sleek here in second place. And things are just going to start looking better and better. It does find the 2-star Enchantress, which is a guaranteed 2-star Treant, and an Ogre Magi put in gives you the Brute bonus, and this is looking really strong for Fresnel in this early game. Of course, a lot of these are like 1 and 2 cost units, and that are going to be a lot weaker come the mid and late game. So obviously completing a win streak is always good, but at what point do you think other people are going to start getting a little bit stronger than this build, and there's going to be some dramatic shifts needed to be made? That'll probably be coming sooner rather than later. Fresnel does take down Sleep here quite convincingly. This Treant Protector just refuses to die on the back of his own healing plus Enchantress healing. So incredibly powerful at this stage in the game. Not even round 10 yet. I'm going to try to predict what kind of Underlord it wants to pick up. I think this build may want Jull, an aggressive tank Jull, if you want to have somebody up on the front line, if you can get aggressive tank. Or if there's all-out attack, Rabid Furball, Eno. I think that is very strong right now. Actually, we have both options here. I imagine it's one of these two, but I'm very curious. I think it's more likely one of these two as compared to an Essex or Hopkins for the Assassin build. Actually does opt for the Essex. Interesting. Very highly valuing the Summon Demonic Golem, and I'm not that sure. I guess still this early on you do have a very resilient front line to keep an Essex alive, but the heal doesn't feel that impactful with assassins, where a lot of your backline assassins are dying pretty quick anyway, and you don't really have defensive alliances like knights or brutes or warriors to keep your units alive much longer. That, you know, a little extra healing from an Essex is not really going to do it. I guess the Golem is super strong at this point in the game, though. Like, he does smack real hard. So I guess I can see where you're coming from if you really want to just double down on this early game power and just say, I want to go for a win streak right now. Or, like, continue win streaks, but it's not even going to work here. Opponent has a 2-star Chaos Knight, and while that Golem was huge, it wasn't that huge. To be fair, I'm not sure that a Jull or Eno would have really turned the tide of that fight. I think the Nesix was probably the strongest thing you could have done. So, yeah, that's an interesting choice that I don't necessarily think I would have picked. I'm not sure if that's always it's a cool option, the Golem summon, but there's not quite enough there. Let's take a look around the table now that Fresnel's been knocked off the undefeated perch here. Let's take a look at Sleep. Sleep running the 4 Scrappy build and has lots of Scrappies and Warlocks on the bench, running or holding onto a pair of Shadow Fiends, some Broodmothers, or a Broodmother and an Alchemist. And also has a Beastmaster on the board just to give the Hunter bonus right now. It's an interesting kind of variation on the Scrappy build, kind of keeping a couple different options and paths open here. It does go up against Band running the Eno. Eno just jumping around, dealing lots of stuns and all-out attack here. All-out attack is pretty strong, but against the Scrappies, it does give them a little bit of time to kind of heal up. It does get the Nesix Golem out, which is a pretty big stun, and is going to start cleaning up the backline here. Assuming he can actually get his attacks off. He has tons of miss chance already. He's missed so many attacks. That Golem like missed more than half of his auto attacks that he had available, but still manages to barely pull out the win with a Clockwork with 175 HP left. Crazy close fight there, man. Let's go Aminabot and Declanbot. Yes, I am definitely rooting for those two. Amina and Declanbot are the fan favorites here. You gotta always cheer for the fan favorites. Declanbot's actually doing pretty well for himself. Higher health than 2 real players, Band and Swift Panther. Can't imagine that'll continue too much longer, though. Amina and Declanbot are facing off each other, so one of them is going to take a win in this round. Here we see Sleep up against Grip Z, who's the one who actually knocked Fresnel off the undefeated streak, so it'll definitely be a challenge here for Sleep, but it's actually lined up pretty well, where most of Grip Z's units are lined up right into the big AoE of the Timbersaw and the Beastmaster. The Golem goes off without a hitch, and Beastmaster's just doing tons of damage here while the Sniper cleans up with a well-placed Assassinate. And yeah, this Hunter variant on the Scrappies is looking very strong. A 2-star Beastmaster is always going to be a powerful force at any point in the game, but especially now, man. He's looking good.
Oh, they're going to really hate me now.
Clockwork racking up tons of kills. Already has 11 kills. That's not something you typically see. Sleep does opt to level up to 6, a little bit later than most players. A lot of other players have leveled to 7. Most of them, not all, have opted to level to 7 by this point, so just getting up to 6 is a touch behind curve, but does get a very powerful unit in here with the Broodmother, giving the Insect bonus, which is obviously very strong against kind of cornered opponents. They're all going to get cleared up with a Shadow Fiend, but after that, there's pretty much no other way for them to deal with these insects. We're just going to be constantly poking at the backline. Golem comes in, super impactful, and actually in that particular case, the Golem, Sleep's Golem went off first. Normally that doesn't happen, but I guess Pouty Panda's Nesix was in the middle of another animation when it went off, so it didn't actually get to cast at the same time. There are 2 bots in this game because we are playing in the ESL Mobile Open, and while there is 8 people supposed to be in the lobby, 2 of them are going to be a little bit late to start of the tournament. It'll be a best of 3 rounds, so they still have time to kind of recoup and recover in this lobby. They've got 2 more games to go, but they're just going to be a little bit late due to real life things because we had a very strict start time for the tournament. But hopefully we'll get a couple others in afterwards. But that's just the nature of tournaments. Is sometimes if you have people that don't show up, or if you have 8 people exactly in the lobby, but then they or if you don't have a multiple 8 people sign up, sometimes you'll have to throw another like a lobby of 7 people or a lobby of 6 people just because you have an unusual number of people who are playing. All right, looks like we chose correctly. Sleep here is going on a pretty solid win streak ever since we hopped over to check him out. Does have a 6 scrappy build, and despite being contested by a couple other players for some number of scrappy, no one else is really going for too many other than Declan Bot, who obviously we'd imagine would get eliminated at some point in the near future. This Beastmaster pulling down a ton of work. Does have a 2-star Shadow Fiend and a Broodmother. Probably not sure if Broodmother's really going to be a pickup. If you're going to run a Warlock, I think Shadow Fiend and Alchemist make a bit more sense. I mean, you could grab the Insect bonus, but I do feel like Insect bonus falls off towards the later stages of the game, and Broodmother in particular seems a little bit lower impact, certainly compared to Shadow Fiend. Excuse me. Shadow Fiend, who deals tons of AoE damage and is basically a full heal with the Warlock bonus. This Essex Golem is looking so good in this particular composition. I was a little bit questioning it with the Assassins with Fresnel, and I still kind of question it, but I think in this build the Golem and Essex is so powerful. I'm going to take a look over at Fresnel, who we were following earlier, who did have an early completed win streak. It still is picking up some number of these Assassins, but is actually going for something that I do a lot of times with my own Assassin builds, is you default into this like 3 Assassin build, where if 6 Assassins just really doesn't come together, it still can make sense to go into like Brutes, Druids, 3 Assassins. And I've had some success with that, where you get, you know, a Slark 2 or even 3-star as your big carry, and then you just like go into just like strong 4-cost units. Maybe you get Dragon Knight Viper, maybe you get you know, if you have a 2-star Ember Spirit, that can be your other assassin, or if not, you just get a Faceless Void, and just kind of go into a good stuff build with assassins as kind of like your damage dealer. It's not as bad as it may sound on one hand. I've had some more success than I would have thought, just, you know, just on paper with it. That seems to be the direction Fresnel's going to go here, since the successes hasn't really come together, hasn't had the leveled up Queen of Pain or anything like that just yet. Do you think Eno is good with units with long cooldowns? Yes. Yeah, that is one appeal of Eno, is that he kind of gives your board a few seconds to kind of reset and kind of get their cooldowns up, maybe heal up if they have some healing ability or regeneration effect, and as soon as the opponents come back down, they're stunned for like another second, and then they can come back down and unleash all of your abilities, and it's pretty strong. We do see Sleep leveling up to 8 here, as some other players also have, but Sleep, I think, has a very powerful level here, throwing the Shadow Fiend, giving Demon and Warlock, and just a hugely powerful unit in its own right. Is still lacking some 2-stars on some key units, still having a 1-star Tinker, 1-star Sniper, 1-star Alchemist, and Weaver. So a lot of 1-stars still, but the important parts are 2-star, the damage dealers, the Shadow Fiend, the Beastmaster, and also the front line. It's kind of the more, I don't know if you want to call them utility units, but kind of like, they're not the primary frontliners, Timbersaw and Clockwork, and the primary damage dealers, Shadow Fiend and Beastmaster, they're all 2-starred, and it's kind of like these accessory units who are good, like, they deal damage, they're okay on their own, but they mainly provide alliances, and they're not like the main carries in their own right, are all at 1-star at the moment. So these are like the ideal units you would pick to 2-star if you had to pick which units out of this lineup you wanted to be 2-starred. Man, what a pack here for Sleep. It does pick up a 2-star Weaver, and then what was that? A pair of Timbersaws, another Tinker, and an Alchemist. Man, what a 5-unit pack there. It just pretty much everything you wanted. It doesn't have every upgrade now, but has a lot of them. Very impressive. Is up against Fresnel here, who was talking about earlier, has the kind of a, I guess, a failed assassin build is the best way I've found to think of this, as an assassin build that never quite came together. You kind of go into this savage, brute, 4-cost kind of build, I still think it can be reasonably powerful here. We do see it having a very strong front line, but it's a little bit too close to call here, actually. This Weaver's still at full HP, and I think the Weaver is going to be able to handle this. Weaver applying poison on everything. I think with everyone being so low... No, he just can't. He's not hitting the right targets. Just not hitting the right targets. He needs to kill this Treant Protector first, but is just not doing it.
This isn't working.
Oh, man. So close. If that Weaver had better target selection, I think if that Weaver was hitting the Treant Protector there initially, and there was a little bit better focus fire, that was easily a win. Oh, the Weaver didn't have the Orb of Venom. I thought last time I checked, the Weaver still had Orb of Venom, but yeah, moved off of that one. But it doesn't really matter because Sleep is still in first place here in terms of HP. Does find the 2-star Tinker and the 2-star Alchemist. Just really good couple of packs here for Sleep, getting, was that 3 upgrades in 2 rounds, and of course some excess units going towards 3 stars, which should be pretty reasonable considering the number of other Timber Saws out there is pretty low, unless you count the bots, who should hopefully be eliminated relatively soon. This fight is looking pretty good here, and that's a 2-star Shadow Fiend and Alchemist pulling a lot of work. You gotta think that, assuming this build levels up again, probably the best thing would be another Inventor, which would be Gyrocopter, which would also give Deadeye. I kind of wish, as a spectator, I could see the progress towards other alliances. I mean, I kind of know where it's at, but it's not like immediately clear that, oh yeah, there's one Deadeye still kind of like unpaired in this build. I think that would be kind of nice if you could see that as a spectator. Alright, looking around the lobby, let's take a look at some of the players who are not doing so hot here. Obviously, we've been focusing a lot on Sleep and Fresnel here, but let's take a look at Swift Panther. He's down to 30 life, and this is another Assassin build. We've actually seen a couple players going towards Assassin. Swift Panther and Fresnel and Declan Butts grabbing a couple of them. But this one has clearly not been working out too well for Swift Panther. It does have a whole bunch of 1-stars. The 1-star Dragon Knight, Sand King, Slark, Faceless Void. I guess Faceless Void's fine at 1-star, but the rest of them are a little bit underwhelming at 1-star. 1-star Alchemist. And that's reflected in the life total, still down at 30 life. Does manage to take out a Mina bot here. Unfortunately, fan favorite Mina bot is knocked out. So is Declan bot. Right before round 30. But I guess the big problem with this build right here is the fact that there's only 5 assassins, right? Now that's a pretty obvious, like, oh yeah, you want to play 6 assassins. But this is like an interesting point in the game where there's a big power trough for assassins in particular, where they're I don't even know what you would call it. The overall like ups and downs of the power level of assassins is at a low point at this point in the build when you just have 4 or 5 assassins. You have like this big jump you need to make between 3 and 6 assassins. And once you get up to 6, it can be quite strong, but until that point, it is quite lackluster. So we're seeing that right now. Does manage to find a couple of extra 2-stars. That doesn't solve the lack of assassin problem. I'm pretty sure they would gladly trade out this Alchemist for a Viper to get that extra assassin, or even for Nyx assassin to give either dragon or insect plus the 6th assassin. But does not have that at the moment. And of course has no gold remaining to really continue rerolling for that. Does go up against Pouty Panda here, running a big Warlock build, but you gotta think the Assassins are probably pretty favored against that, especially against one that's so stacked in the corner. So as soon as this Alchemist Acid Spray goes off, it'll hit pretty much everybody. It came out pretty late though, because that Alchemist was not taking much damage, but it doesn't seem to matter. Pouty Panda's healing is just not keeping up. Their 4 Warlock build is getting no healing off thanks to these crits from the Assassins. Oh, well, hang on. This Lifestealer may end up getting there. This is a 2-star Doom who just refuses to die. I think he will eventually go down. There's not a lot of damage output in the Jull and Broodmother here, but the insects can't be hit by the Brute debuff, and they were the ones who were carrying that fight at the very end. So we do see a 2-star Dragonite coming out, but still no like actual Dragon alliance completed yet. So that's got to be a point of concern here. Is that okay? You've got the Dragon alliance, but so what? Or sorry, you got the 2-star Dragonite, but he's not the big carry that he will be once you get him to 2-star. Unless you have the Dragon alliance. Not even opting to reroll anymore. For or I mean rerolled once, but no more than that. Going up against Band here is a 3-star Morphling who was actually nerfed rather substantially a few patches back, down to his cooldown used to be 450 damage with a 4-second cooldown. It was absurdly strong, and now it's of course just 325 with a 6-second cooldown, so much weaker at 3-star here. That being said, it still looks like it's going to. This gel is still going to take it down. It looks like should be able to lifesteal through this. Oh no! It was like 1 auto attack from killing this Morphling. It does take a smallest loss ever, but I don't think that's that big of a deal here. Swift Panther, I think, is going to start turning this around. Does have the 2-star on most units here. Does find the Viper. You got to imagine that's going to swap out for the Alchemist here, I would bet. Especially if you get up to 2-star. Or perhaps over Broodmother, if you really just value the Alchemist ult, but I think the Insects makes a bit more sense. Yep, there we go. Swapping those out, and now Dragonite moves back a little bit to be a bit more of a backline carry. I still think you should probably grab one of these items, either Crystallis or like maybe Diffusal Blade or something, instead of having one of those units carry that. But regardless, this Dragonite is doing a lot more work now that he's transformed into full dragon form. That was a beautiful Chrono Cube hitting pretty much the entire enemy team here, including a 3-star Batrider who can, I would say carry fights, but can't. Not without a very resilient front line in front of it. Does take Gripsy down by 17 damage. That's actually huge here. So now not even in last place after this kind of turnaround of a win streak. Actually, Band has dropped into the lowest HP position right now. The 3-star Morphling, and actually is running a Spirit Belt. I didn't even realize, maybe this is a new thing, but I didn't realize there was a 3-Spirit alliance in play. Does have a 2-star Lich and an extra Lich. Man, finding a 2-star Lich before a 2-star Keeper of the Light, that is the kind of luck. I don't even know if that's good luck or bad luck at this point. That's some kind of luck. Opting for another Lich in here. I'm actually not sold on 1-star Lich. I'm like, I mean, you play him as an extra mage, but like, I guess there's no better option here. But like, I'm not a big fan of 1-star Lich. 2-star Lich, I'm a huge fan of. But like, what is a 1-star Lich doing for you? Like, look, he's like I mean, I guess his Chain Frost didn't bounce to anybody, so I guess that's a little anomalous. It literally hit once, but still, even if it bounced a couple times, he's still like on par with Crystal Maiden. Yeah, I'm not a big fan here of the 1-star Lich. I don't know if Van leveled up to do that, or was already planning on leveling up anyway. But I feel like because you have the Spirit Alliance, I would just throw in another Storm Spirit instead. Or a Void Spirit. Yeah, Void Spirit makes sense now. Hell, I'd probably just sell off the this extra Lich and just reroll trying to find the 2-star Keeper of the Light. I don't think it's worth it trying to go for a second 2-star Lich. I think 4 Spirits is stronger. You just want to run as many Spirits as possible to get as many casts. Better chance of a Delta Slam. And then, yeah, I just think that would be a better option rather than going for the chance of another 2-star Lich. Does take out Sleep here for a big chunk of 16 damage. Mage is one of the big counters against opposing Scrappies who just have no built-in magic resistance or anything like that. Did manage to get the Gyrocopter though, but still rocking a 1-star Sniper, so that is not going to be carrying nearly as much as they would obviously like. does have the option for a Refresh Orb here. So a Refresh Orb, 2-star Lich. This could be a real big turnaround here from Band. And it seems like every time we look at the bottom of the table, everyone is making big turnarounds as soon as they drop low. At this point, it feels like it's... I mean, Sleep has a big HP advantage, but Fresnel is a 3-star Slark with a Moon Shard. Okay, and it's not a Mask of Madness, but like, it's a 3-star Slark with a Moon Shard. We're going to be following that one. I love me some Slark. I love it. Obviously love it more with a Mask of Madness to give it a little bit of survivability, but like, let's just watch how insane this gets. Oh, he's up against the mages, so Slark's kind of a little bit vulnerable here without the extra lifesteal. A Delta Slam goes off, but it doesn't really hit anybody here. The Slark is not survivable enough. It's going to take another big chunk of AoE here, and... Or will he? This Morphling was disarmed! Oh my goodness, what the heck just happened? What the heck just happened? I'm like, Slark is 400 health. He's just like one Storm Spirit or Morphling all away from dying. And he just didn't. Because when he leapt, he did his leap, and then Morphling went the other way for some reason and just missed the Slark. And then was still disarmed as Slark walked up and then just like 3-shot him. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Alright, on the elimination block here is Swift Panther, who was running the 6 assassin build that kind of failed to really get things off the ground, was very quickly down to 30 life earlier on in the game. Is now facing elimination as the lowest health opponent player with 1 HP. We'll follow them to see if anything... Their build is pretty well complete. I mean, they'd like to level up one more time to throw in an Alchemist, but that seems pretty out of reach. And they are also going up against the mages, so this has just been... It seems like we're just following Band here based on the way this has been going. The Delta Slam comes out. It doesn't hit too terribly many people. It doesn't matter because they're all already dead. And it does look like Swift Panther is going to be taking a very early exit here right after this all-out attack is done. But Pouty Panda actually loses first thanks to the all-out attack. So Swift Panther actually moves up 1 step in the standings. I mean, it's not a huge difference between 6th and 5th. I don't know the exact scoring system in place here. It'll be an aggregate over the 3 rounds that we're going to play with the same lobby. So, you know, one bad finish here does not sink in them by any means. But does have the 2-star Void Spirit. I didn't notice that because they don't have a different cosmetics for a 2-star. Was going to go for the Lich, but actually opts to sell them off here and does find the 2-star Keeper of the Light. Seems pretty strong here. This build from Band with the 2-star Lich with Refresher, a 2-star Keeper, a 3-star Morphling, and 4 Spirits to get the Delta Slam off. What did Sleep just get a 3-star of? A 3-star Shadow Fiend. Hello there. 3-star Shadow Fiend, especially with a Pipe of Insight against these mages, is going to be massive. This entire backline is just going to be so hard to take down. And Shadow Fiend in particular, because all of the damage is magic, but does manage to actually get taken down. What the heck happened to that Shadow Fiend? That Shadow Fiend was looking nice and healthy, and then...
Well, that was a bit
it just died.
now, wasn't it?
The heck? It took most of its damage from Lich's Chain Frost. How much does Lich's Chain Frost hit for? 300? What? That... He had a Pipe of Insight. He should have 50% magic resistance. I felt like that Shadow Fiend died way too quick to that magic damage. I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but it really felt like he died quicker than he should have. It really felt that way. Unfortunately, this reposition is probably not that great. This Dragonite is now nice and lined up to hit everybody. And the Shadow Fiend does cast, but he was crit by the Assassins already, and that means he doesn't actually get a cast off. This Slark is just going bonkers. Look at this Slark. He wasn't even the highest DPS, but he was still dealing... He was still attacking 3 times per second by the end of the fight. And that was the Phantom of Fresnel. So Fresnel does 9 damage over to Band with the Assassins against the Mages here. And now we're down to 2. I gotta put my money on the 3-star Slark, personally. I think 3-star Slark is a good unit. I know that's a controversial opinion, but I think 3-star Slark is good and is probably going to win fights. So will a 2-star Faceless Void and friends here up against a mage build. This mage build looks really impressive, but like it doesn't have single target burst, and unless Lich got stunned here, but does get his second Chain Frost off. It does bounce around to the Slark, but it doesn't kill the Slark. Not even close. That is an all-out attack for or against Fresnel here, but it looks like Fresnel's still going to take the win here. And with that 3-star Slark, does manage to lock it all down. So a good first game here. Wow, we get the big Slark up against the big Morphling, and really a lot of very powerful builds here. It could have broken a lot of different ways. It felt like pretty much everyone in the top 4 was very close and was 1 or 2 fights away from taking it down because it was so incredibly close on life total. So we've got a little bit of a break here before the next round. It looks like we at least got one other person in lobby, S-Judd, and we should get hopefully one more as we go to as we'll be playing 2 more games here in this same lobby with the same players, and then they will score points in the ESL Mobile Open according to their placement after all 3 games. So if assuming we can get up to the full 8 people here, I'll probably be doing a little bit less chat interaction for subsequent games, just a little more focused on casting, because I do want to take some of this casting footage, turn it into its own video. So just a heads up, if I'm not responding to chat, as no notifications on, it's not because I want to ignore you, it's just because I want to be focused on what I'm doing. Wow, that was a hell of a game, huh? 3-star Slark. I didn't actually get to see what there was another build. There was a 6 Knight build. I didn't really get to focus too much on that one. I think I got 4th place, so I would have liked to see that a bit more. I didn't even notice until it was like already eliminated because I was too focused on some of the other ones. But still a lot of interesting builds there coming out. I guess I was kind of surprised, honestly, to see a lot of players opt for the Golem and Essex, healing and Essex. Personally, I've been thinking that, especially when it was compared to all-out attack NO, Rabid Furball, I thought like Rabid Furball NO was really strong, especially in the Assassin build that like Fresno was going for. I think all-out attack NOs seems really good. But regardless, of course, the Essex Golem also still quite good. Adrian Vise, that's you. Oh, you had the 6 Knights. Awesome. I unfortunately did not get to focus in on that as much as I would have liked. There was so many other cool comps that I kind of didn't realize there's a 6 Knights until it was a little bit too late. But still a reasonably good finish there. I think it was 4th place. Yeah, the 3-star Slark, they didn't hit everybody. It was just a buzzsaw. Just anybody walked up against the 3-star Slark, just absolutely shredded them. So yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. But in a little bit here, we'll be getting into game 2. I only see 7 people in the lobby. Hopefully we get an 8th. I don't know what their I was told there was supposed to be an 8th. Maybe. Maybe there will, maybe there won't. If not, it's no matter. It just means we only have 1 bot to root for instead of 2. Yeah, 3-star Slark. It didn't even have like it had Moon Shard, which was still insane. It was hitting so hard, so fast. It was just... Ugh. I love 3-star Slark. I hate playing against it, but I love the idea that I could get something like that and then just win the game off the back of it. That'd be great. I think Damage Hobgoblin is the worst Underlord. I think Yoink Enno is worse. I think Healin' and Stealin' Enno is worse, personally. I don't think Healin' and Stealin' Enno is very good. I don't know. Maybe I've only played him a couple times and just did not really feel the impact. But I agree with you that Damage Hobgoblin is probably like second worst. It's like he's definitely in the bottom tier. The nice thing is though that like he still has his place. Damage Hobgoblin is really strong in mages. I even kind of think that like Healing Tank Gel's kind of bad. I'd say those are probably the bottom three, and then like Damage and Essex and Support Hobgoblin are like in middle tier, and then Furball Enno, Damage, Aggressive Gel, and Healing and Essex are probably top tier. If I'm just making an arbitrary tier list here. Is that everybody? 8. So I did 3 in the bottom, 2 in the middle, 3 in the top. Yeah, that's right. That's all 8. Alright, we do have a full lobby here. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so once again, just a heads up for these subsequent games. I'll probably be doing a little bit less chat interaction, just kind of focusing on casting here. Which comps can counter 3-star Slark? You don't really counter 3-star Slark. You really just hope that he doesn't do his thing. Anything that gets like stuns or single target disables, Doom comes to mind, right? If you can get a Doom on him. Just brutes in general will slow him down. Something like stuns that were like repeated stuns, long duration stuns, like Witch Doctor comes to mind. If Witch Doctor can bounce his cask and hit him a couple times and then prevent him from really going off, you can get some... Because he has like a long like wind-up animation to start auto-attacking. So if you can like hit him with a stun and then he like is about to attack again and then gets stunned again and then it bounces a couple times, that can give you time to kill him off. Chaos Knight as well. Chaos Knight, if he manages to hit the Slark with it, can easily, like a 2 or 3-star Chaos Knight can easily deal with a 3-star Slark if he hits like a 3 or 4 second stun. Yeah, you just try to survive. That is definitely the primary mode of dealing with 3-star Slark, is hope somebody else has to face them. And then if you face them off in the final 1v1, you'll take second place as a win. That's probably the best. Mobile open, where's the world going? There's a far bigger mobile gaming market than PC or console gaming market. So it's going to the way of the future. Who would have thought that whenever technology got to a point where you have more computing power in this than you had on any PC about 15 years ago, then turns out that that's a much more popular platform. Well, luckily this particular style of game, like the auto battler game, it doesn't... The difference in play is, like, for spectating. I understand, like, I would not be terribly interested in watching, like, PUBG Mobile, for instance, or, like, a kind of, I'd say mechanically intensive game, like a shooter game, or, like, something that requires precise mechanical actions and inputs. But these kind of strategy games, like, I wouldn't mind if, like, you know, if I had to watch a card game like Hearthstone tournament if it's played on mobile. It doesn't really change the quality of play. Same with auto battlers like Underlords or other ones in the genre. The quality of play really is essentially identical between. I mean, there's a little bit of difference, I suppose, but it really is not a big deal. 2 people I can get ready. Yeah, I don't know why Band and S-Jud. I do not have access to their. There's a separate like chat and Discord for this group, and I am just a lowly spectator who can't do anything other than spectate. So they're admins of the tournament if they're not readying up or some way to contact them. So I don't know. Hopefully they get readied up here and we can get in right into it. There's supposed to be a I thought it was supposed to be like a 10-minute break in between rounds, but it's definitely been more than that. Maybe it's been about that long. Am I showing ESLs I'm talking? Interesting. Well, unfortunately I don't have control when exactly this next one starts, so I'll just have to hope we get that resolved sooner rather than later, and I can just BS until then. I can talk about how much I love Enno. I love Enno. This little furball's my favorite Underlord. Even if his healing and stealing doesn't feel that impactful. I just love his aesthetics. Like look at this gun. It's like shoots out like a little suction cup thing and he just hops around. Like where did he get this from? This like blow dart pipe thing. He just jumps out of nowhere with this in his hand. It's like, oops, found this on the ground. That means that his like big grappling hook gun must have he must have like dropped that off somewhere. Stashed it away.
All roads lead back to me.
Still not happening. Why? Hey, Jaden Wynn, you got smashed 7th place in the first round? Ooh, that's rough. That is pretty rough. I only get 2 more games to at least claw it back. Should we start off? It's been 10 minutes? Yeah, that's what I thought. I do not know. I don't have access to any kind of match chat or anything like that to get in contact with them. So I don't know. I know S-Jud was new, and that was like somebody who joined in. Band was playing last game though. So I don't... They were playing until the very end. An admin, yeah. Do not know. I don't know if you you can't even like kick people out of the lobby, right? I don't think you can. You have to like start a new lobby. What are the odds of a Legion Commander build in this next round? I hope. Now that you mention it, we didn't see anybody playing Legion Commander here, which is kind of unusual. Normally you see at least 1 or 2 players opting to go the Legion Commander route. Maybe they just didn't get him early game. Getting price here. So this is not my tournament. This is the ESL Mobile Open tournament. So you'd have to check out their website. I don't have the link off the top of my head. There we go. But you can check out more details. This is for this particular... well, that's the rules. Hang on. Info.
All roads lead back to me.
There you go. All right, we are into game 2 here of the ESL Mobile Open Tournament. We got our full lobby here. All right, actually, it's not full. We are missing 2 players. Never mind. We are missing, and we're filling in with Gwendolyn Bot and Ricardo Bot, who I will definitely be rooting for because Gwendolyn Bot has gone for Legion Commander, my favorite unit in the game. So hopefully, well, they probably won't get too terribly far, unfortunately. We do see we have 4 players in Lord of Whitespire here, as well as Grip Z and Sleep. We don't really know what the rankings are on some of these players who have 0 rank, means they haven't played too much recently, but Pouty Panda is ranked 16 in the world, so we definitely have some very strong players here in this lobby. So even though we just have 6 real players, it should still be a very high level of competition here. All right. On this first round, we do see Fresnel up against Pouty Panda, and looks like Fresnel's getting the worst end of this trade as Enchantress at 1 star, really just not cutting it against a relatively synergistic lineup here between the Axe providing good, strong frontline early on, and a pair of Warlocks just providing some backline healing. There's really no synergy coming out of Fresnel, so it does take an early loss here as Pouty Panda tries to maybe go on an early win streak. We'll take a look at the items in just a moment, but let's take stock of the initial compositions. We do see Bungum here going for probably an open fort strategy, kind of intentionally losing the first few rounds. And this is something that was previously pretty popular on some other patches and still retains some popularity, but it's been, I'd say, going down in popularity recently. The benefit is that you get to basically ensure a reasonably consistent early game, but at the cost of a lot of life, and doesn't look like he actually wants to do that now that he has a pretty strong build, I'll say, with 2 insects. Should be able to get the better end of this this fight. Insects are just so strong in the early game. They are definitely more powerful than any like one star hero. So essentially there's like 4 units on this board or more, just based on the damage output and survivability offered by the insects themselves. It does manage to take down the opponent here, so Bungum not going on the full open fort strategy, just intentionally lost 1 round, got a free reroll, and now has some pairs and some good alliances already. So, looking around here, we do see Sleep has picked up an Earth Spirit. Now, that is an interesting unit. Earth Spirit, a few patches back, was moved from Tier 3 down to Tier 2, and I kind of thought that's still not good enough to make him a good unit. I guess this early on, you are pretty much thinking, well, he's tankier than Axe, in that he's got 10 armor as opposed to Axe's 5, and he deals slightly higher DPS. But does opt to even swap that out for a Pudge, as as he didn't even want to continue on with that for too terribly long. That's fair. Unfortunately, going up against Bungum here, who does have the 2 1-star Magi's and the insects. What I find interesting about this particular situation is that Bungum has opted to level up to level 4 on round 3. That is a touch unusual if you don't already have a win streak. Normally you see people leveling up on that particular turn if you have a win streak. I'm not a huge fan of doing it in cases like this, but I guess if you are really confident that you're going to turn this around and get on a win streak, and you just want to get that second win going, I guess it can make sense. But we do see that. The reason being is that you really just don't have that much gold, and you're really constraining the number of units you can buy on that round 3 by spending 5 gold on that, as opposed to you really could just buy 3 or 4 more units and keep your ability to 2-star units a lot more open. And now we even see them selling off. There's a pair of Shadow Demons on the bench going for 10 gold for interest instead, and I guess going to pick up these units after interest is locked in at the start of the round. But I think this may end up backfiring a little bit. This Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say they were going to take a loss here, but that sniper actually got burned down by the insects relatively quickly. That sniper was looking pretty safe in the backline, but did manage to get taken down by the insects here. So we'll see how the rest of this round is continuing to play out. Got we got a couple of people here going off of insects. Still very strong early game. Ooh, this build looks sweet from Pouty Panda here. That has got a pair of druids as well as a pair of trolls as well as just a 2-star Bat Rider. I think 2-star Bat Rider is really strong at this point. His Sticky Napalm actually just chunks so hard. Venomancer does as well. Venomous Scale getting, I would argue, a buff recently. Now that it applies poison. Feels like it's a much stronger ability here. Oh, hey, Jason Rist. I'm doing quite well, just casting the ESL Mobile Open Tournament here today. This is round 2 of 3 that we'll be playing with the same group of people here. Unfortunately, some of the players were in the lobby but didn't ready up in time, so they got kicked, and now we got to play with 2 bots, even though they were here at least temporarily. So kind of confusing on that one. Maybe they'll come back for round 4, or round 3 rather. We'll have to see. You just got out of surgery 4 days ago. Wow. And the men from the ankle surgery. Ooh. The new Underlord I think is pretty cool. I think he's pretty cool. I do. You say you're hesitant because of the imbalance between the Eno. I do think that the Yoink version of Eno is a little bit weaker. I can agree to that, but I feel like Underlord balance in general I think is pretty good. I think there's kind of like 3 distinct tiers of like all the different Underlords, but what that means essentially is that you have 4 options. And I kind of think there's like 3 of them in bottom tier, which means pretty much no matter what, you're always going to have at least a mid-tier option of Underlord pick, and almost certainly you'll have like a top-tier option out of your 4 choices in most cases. Alright. We don't see any further Legion Commander shenanigans, unfortunately. I was really hoping to get some more Legion Commander going here. We do see Gwendolyn bot rocking Legion Commander, but I don't have my hopes set very high that Gwendolyn bot is going to make it very far here. See the new Underlord in this match? On round 10, players will be able to pick up Underlords. And so we're a few rounds away from that. Going to play the early game just kind of forming out a composition, figuring out where you want to take it, what you want to be doing. And then on round 10, or rather the preparation phase of round 10, so after round 9 of combat, you will get a chance to pick up your Underlord, hopefully one that fits your composition the best. Alright, so we do see Fresnel, who was our winner of the very first game with his 3-star Slark Insanity. Still going strong here at the top of the tables, running a different composition, but still has the Assassins on the bench, and that's where Fresnel was playing last game with a lot of Assassins. So we'll see if that kind of trend continues. I was kind of thinking that last game they would end up going for a more 3 Assassin build, but did going back to 6 Assassins once the 3-star Slark really came online. Really got to the late game. I don't know if that'll be the case here, or if they'll maybe opt for a more, say, like Brutes and Warlocks kind of build is very popular with Axe and like Venomancer and the Druids to go that kind of direction, or perhaps we'll just go back to a lot of what we just saw from last game. Oh, you mean the unpredictability after he tosses people around? Yeah, that is definitely something that I've heard some people complain about, I guess, is how difficult it is to play around the new version of NO, where like it feels like your positioning doesn't matter all that much. Or I mean, it still does, of course. You know, you're gonna fight the opening 12 or 15 seconds, whatever it is, until he casts with your initial formation, and it's quite a long time to do quite a bit in the fight. So I don't think it's like there is some unpredictability, but I don't feel like it's as bad as some people make it out to be. People are like, oh, it's so. I don't know what the word is, but some people feel like it's just like unfair. That like, to me, it sounded like the same kind of complaints of people who say like, in card games, like units that are unblockable in card games are unfair because they break a fundamental rule of the game. But I kind of disagree with that. We do see Fresnel picking up the NO with the all-out assault here, all-out attack rather, where he's going to be lassoing up people, and I think somebody even picked up the Yoink version. Gripsy has picked up the Yoink version. We'll see how that plays out. Both Gwendolyn and Ricardobot both picked up NO. Not that that really means too terribly much. And we also see healing gel on the Scrappies. Makes sense. Their regen is very useful with the healing bonus, and also a support Hobgon and an Essex Golem. So here we see this little furball. Every couple seconds he'll be spamming his death spin, applying poison to people nearby him. And he's about to cast all-out attack here in just a moment as he pops up. Actually, both teams got hit with the all-out attack, so they're both getting randomly redistributed. Unfortunately, Gwendolyn's bot board was much weaker initially, so it does get taken down very shortly thereafter. Yeah, NO is just so hard to take down. I actually haven't gotten a chance to really compare the stats directly. So NO at this point has 1600 HP. Compared to like Hobgon, I guess has 1800. I want to see what Gel has. What does so let me click on Gel. Gel has 1900. Okay, so NO is squishier than the other Underlords at this point. I guess it's on par with an Essex. Has slightly more armor, so it's definitely tankier than an Essex, but that's, I mean, everybody should be tankier than an Essex, as she's a healer. So, but not quite as tanky as Jull or Hobgon. I think he should probably have a little bit less health total, though. Being a small little runt, you should probably be able to take him down a little bit quicker. Alright, so we'll see how Fresnel does up here against Bungum, running a Druid Insect Brute comp, which is kind of weird because that's what Fresnel's also running. They both are running the same alliances. That's actually kind of funny. Just in different units, very different units. It's like all four Druids are different, and actually all four Brutes are different as well. So between the two of them, they're running like the same comp, but they're running like almost every different kind of unit that you possibly could. They share so little in common here. Hey Hulk, you'll be playing in this tournament tomorrow. Well, good luck. Good luck if you're playing this tomorrow. I'll just be casting this today. Will not be casting tomorrow. I'll be watching the Super Bowl tomorrow, actually, at around this time. Alright, so it seems like this is the game of the Brutes. 1, 2, 3, 4 players picking up Brutes this early on. is a very strong indication that brutes are quite potent. And I do think that brutes are very strong in the early game. They have a lot of good early game units. Fresnel is about to complete a win streak here, it seems, assuming this ends up being a win, which I think it looks like it will be. There's a little bit of lack of damage output here. This Terrorblade, it's just a 1-star Terrorblade. Doesn't have the damage output to deal with a 3-star Shadow Shaman. If that was a 2-star Terrorblade, though, I feel like this could have gone the other way. But a 1-star is not going to be nearly powerful enough. Enno actually top damage dealer here. With this, with all that poison just stacking up over and over and over again, Enno just feels so strong. I think one of the big bonuses here is the all-out attack applies so much poison and also just deals a ton of damage. I think it gets miscalculated or misattributed to like Death Spin. That 5 stacks of poison that he applies. But yeah, it's pretty potent here. Fresnel completes another win streak. That's 2 games in a row we've seen Fresnel complete a win streak, and in the first game he managed to take it all down, so gotta feel like he's the favorite to take it all down this time. But of course, Pouty Panda also still just 1 HP behind, running a 4 Warlock comp, already having that all online. Does not have the Disruptor, the big ace of Warlock yet. Obviously, it's a little too early to get an ace unit in the game, but does have the 2-star Lone Druid in this fight. Actually, just as a 1-star Lone Druid, 1-star Axe. But still, the 2-star Lone Druid is going to be big and impactful. This bear is just everything you want this early on, especially when against opponents who are in a lot of 1-stars. We do see Pouty Panda has 2 Stonehall Pikes, and I am actually a big fan of this item, especially on a Warlock comp, which kind of sounds weird, but Venomancer and Shadow Fiend are actually really good units to hold these items. They sit on the backline, rack up a lot of kills, especially in the early game. Venomancer has like a deceptively large number of kills in a lot of cases. You get a Savage bonus early, and in the opening 10 to 15 rounds, you can actually rack up a good number of kills. It does have 14, which makes us like plus 42, I believe, yeah. So, I mean, it's better than a Claymore, but it's not huge just yet. It's just fine. It could be better, but I have high hopes that this Venomancer is going to keep scaling with this item. It looks like he certainly will. Of course, he also gets bonus attack damage every time he attacks from the Savage bonus, and so any more is just icing on the cake. It does look like the Savage build here from Pouty Panda is going to be able to take him down. Venomancer does get just the 1 more kill on the fight. What's really surprising to me is that there's really only 2 2-star units in this build, the Shadow Fiend and the Venomancer, and still this is going on a big win streak, still first place in the game in terms of life total, as opposed to some players who have 4 or even 5 units at 2-star. This build doesn't really need that many high star levels to be competitive. It really needs it on the big damage dealers, the Venomancer and the Shadow Fiend. Luckily, those are the ones that you have upgraded. If you had just had 1-stars of those, but like a 2-star Witch Doctor and like a 2-star Broodmother, this build would be much worse. And I guess the Druid bonus kind of counts as an extra one, but since it's inconsistent, I won't count it just yet here. So now the both of them get all out attacked and kind of thrown around, but fight is still going kind of the way we anticipated, and it's actually convenient. This Shadow Fiend is pretty much untouched, gets long enough time to get his cooldown back up, gets another ult off, and is going to rack up another couple kills. Very strong showing here from this Warlock build, and there's really no heavy Assassin build on the table to counter this. I feel like Pouty Panda just can go for 5th and 6th Warlock, and if you can grab a Disruptor, I feel like 6 Warlocks are nearly unstoppable except against assassins, where they just auto lose. I feel like they are so like ridiculously strong against everything else that if you can just get if you can get 6 warlocks, like that is, and there's no assassin in the game, I think that's just a free ticket to first place in the game, or at the very least a top 3 finish. Especially if you already have upgrades on your damage dealers, the Shadow Fiend and Venomancer. And with no assassins, no one's ever going to get to your Venomancer, except with a lucky NO all-out attack. If a unit is magic immune, it seems, like Juggernaut is during his Blade Fury, doesn't get hooked up by the NO all-out attack, which is pretty interesting. Don't know if that's a bug or not. Cloudy Panda does manage to take out Gwendolyn bot. As we bid farewell to the bots here in round 16. That's a lot earlier than we saw last time. Last time bots survived to round 19. But I guess different pairings caused them to go down just a bit quicker. Alright, taking a look here at full stock lobby. Fresnel does actually opt into 3 assassins here. Probably not going to go towards 6 assassins. Doesn't have too terribly many things along the way. It does have the Faceless Void and a Mask of Madness. Okay. So now if I'm Fresnel, I'm thinking, I do have a Mask of Madness. I can totally go for Slark and just like run it back with the same kind of comp as last time. It would be a very late developing assassin build, but I feel like that's actually the direction he's going to go. It does have, 73 life total still at level 8 with nearly a full economy. This feels like is in a situation where this seems totally viable to kind of do this big transition, especially when you already have the ace of the assassins, the Faceless Void. You already have the best item in the world for the Slark. I feel like that's the direction that Fresnel's looking to go here, just a late developing assassin comp, which, I said that Pouty Panda may have an easy path to top 3 or top 4, but if this assassin build does come together, that could give him a run for the money. Meanwhile, Sleep, on the other hand, has a nice little win streak coming together. Does have a 3-star Enchantress, basically ensuring a 3-star of another Druid. Does just have the Shadow Shaman, which I think is a little bit lackluster given the situation, but has a really beautiful set of alliances here. Has 8 alliances completed, no Legion Commander, but the Knights, Warlocks, Healers, Demon, Human, Bloodbound, Trolls, and Druids. So a very eclectic group of alliances here. Some healing, some damage. Gotta feel like it's being held up back a little bit by lack of 2-star like Dragonite in particular. Not having that up to 2 stars really going to be a struggle for damage output, I imagine. And going up against a 3-star Treant Protector, I feel like that's going to be really hard to punch through unless this Chaos Knight can just go absolutely crazy. But he is getting Focus Fire down, and it's not looking like it's going to get there. This actually might be a huge loss, actually. This may be a big loss for Sleep here. This Treant Protector with the Pipe of Insight just refusing to go down. He's going to take a massive chunk of 15 damage. That is half of the life total. Ouch. On the flip side, though, Grip Z, the one with the 3-star Treant, well, it's really a 2-star Treant, but 58% of the time it gets there. Running 4 Brutes, which you said seems to be the game of the Brutes. We've got 2 people on 4 Brutes, both Bungum and Grip Z. And now Brutes kind of lack some damage output come the mid and later stages of the game. But if you do manage to pair it up with some Brawnies and then Bristleback in particular, Bristleback can add a lot of physical damage, and if you're picking up guys like Beastmaster, Bristleback, Alchemist, they make a very good transition to the later stages of the game. Still running the Shadow Shaman and Venomancer, which are giving alliances, but they don't give like full value on their alliances. No Trolls, no Savages, so you got to think that, and especially as 1-cost units, you got to think there's better things to transition into those. If you want to keep the Venomancer, Lone Druid would make a lot of sense instead of going for Trolls here. But of course that requires a little bit of time to try to find that 4-cost unit. They get randomly distributed, but they're actually in a relatively reasonable position here. They're all stacked up, but unfortunately the focus fire does come through, and Pouty Panda's Troll Warlord has found one of those, just smashes right through Grip Z there. The Troll Warlord, man, let's take another look at Pouty Panda, who's still at 90 life despite only having 3 units to 2-star. Having a Shadow Fiend, a Venomancer, and a Broodmother. Man, these alliances are so strong that you don't even need 2-star units to make it work. Now is a 2-star Sand King, but for the longest time was just running 2, maybe 3 units at 2-star and was still crushing the lobby. This is a really big testament to how strong this build is, this Warlock and Savage build. I think that it's, I mean, it is a little bit reliant on getting some strong frontliners. I would even say, I kind of thought it might have been dependent on getting, like, if you're going to be lacking star levels, you really need some good items. And we do see some really strong items here, some attack, all offensive items, really. But the Stonehall Pike is quite efficient on the Venomancer and on the Shadow Fiend, both at 24, 25 kills. So that is I'd say a big boon to this composition, despite lacking star levels on other guys. The high star levels on those units in particular, and the really strong items, has been pulling a lot of weight. We do unfortunately lose Bungum here, and Gripsy is knocked out the other 4 Brute player. It did feel like this is kind of the point of the game where 4 Brute starts to lose a little bit of its luster, unless you're making a good transition, and Bungum just did not have the health total or the gold to really make that kind of transition. Pouty Panda does pick up a mechanism here. That is a huge bonus to the healing output of Warlocks, just dealing a big old chunk of healing. Basically, it's plus 750 health to, I would say, your entire board, but that's not entirely accurate because there's always going to be overhealing. But it does feel like that at times. That if the damage output is relatively symmetric, that mechanism is just going to heal for so much. We do see Sleep kind of staring down. Elimination here does have a 2-star Omni-Knight with a Refresher Orb. Not sure that's really the best thing to be running here. It's functional, I guess. His ult is kind of impactful, I guess. I mean, it was really impactful there, where it just shredded their front line. Put Omni-Knight right to the top of the DPS charts, but gotta think, is that still going to be worthwhile? That was weird. Why did everybody but 3 units get picked up? Oh, I don't know, but like 3 units did not get picked up, so I was very confused as to what just happened. But yeah, just barely dodging elimination there. Sleep up against Pouty Panda. Barely survived, but that was super weird that like 3 units did not get picked up by that. I don't know why, but alright, interesting. This build is also probably compositionally kind of countered by Eno. There's a lot of focus on healing with the 3-star Enchantress, the Warlock, the healers, the Omni-Knight. That the fact that there's 3 of the 4 remaining opponents are running Eno and his poison, which will decrease healing output, it does not really bode well for this kind of composition. Is up against the non-Eno opponent, though, the Phantom of Swift Panther, running a 6 Scrappy build, a pretty stock standard Scrappy build, running Healing Gel. We haven't really had a great chance to look at this build too much just yet. It does have the Medusa with a BKB, so she's actually pumping out a ton of damage, but not nearly enough. It doesn't seem to punch through all of this as Hobgen gets his Let's Go Crazy off, and I think that's going to be good enough to take him down here. That Medusa is just about to fall. Yep. And then now the Focus Fire should come out, and the rest of this board should fall. This Enchantress actually pulling a ton of healing. This Enchantress with over 5k healing in this fight. Very effective. Really well needed because the damage output was not that high. And then really just won the sustained fight through Abaddon's Aphotic Shield and Enchantress's healing. Does manage to hold on for another turn, but I'm not terribly optimistic that this build is going to be able to compete with the other Eno builds, who's going to be cutting down on that healing in the long run. We'll have to see. Fresnel does find the 2-star Dragonite. Fresnel was the winner of our first game, does have the Slark, kind of as anticipated, and is running the Mask Madness on the Slark, but it's not that effective. At this point, the 1-star Slark is not where you want to be. The rest of the build kind of has come together. That's a few stars behind with the 1-star Faceless, 1-star Viper is up against Grip Z, who is running the 4 Brute comp, and the 4 Brutes are traditionally quite strong against Assassins. But it is not looking good for Fresnel here. Probably about to go down here. Does get an all-out attack off, but there's just way too many left. Even with that displacement, pretty much everyone's just going to survive and just get rid of them here. Fresnel takes a big hit of 14. Let's hop over to Sleep. Sleep does unfortunately get eliminated by Grip Z. Grip Z taking 2 wins there, essentially. Dealing 2 big hits. This 4 Brute build that is now transitioned into a bit higher damage, as we discussed. The 4 Brutes does fall off in damage output, but if you can supplement it with high damage Bristlebacks and Beastmasters, it can still compete well into the later stages of the game. And then there were 4. And I gotta feel like, despite the fact that Fresnel had a huge showing in the first game, I feel like he is probably next up on the chopping block here. This build was basically designed around Slark, I feel. I feel like Fresnel maybe even kind of like forced Assassins a little much in this game. There seemed to be other opportunities other than Assassins, and it was a kind of a late developing Assassin build for a while. And I do feel like the payoff has not been there. Because they didn't get Slark until much later, and doesn't even have a 2-star of him yet, let alone a 3-star that he needed to win last game. I'm just not sure this is really going to work out. Does manage to take down this win ever so barely, with just Eno surviving. So maybe going to hold out for a bit, but I'm not seeing much success long term unless there's a 2-star Slark on the horizon. And yes, this tournament is currently live, Dev Chata. Currently casting live games here. Pouty Panda does pick up a 2-star Troll Warlord, and I gotta feel like Pouty Panda is just gonna win this game. I mean, it's a touch early to like declare that somebody's gonna win the game, but based on how far ahead they are in life total, and honestly, I've not been impressed by other builds at the table right now. Like, compared to this point in last game, there was like 3 people with 3 stars. There was like a 3-star Slark, there was a 3-star Shadow Fiend, and a 3-star Morphling. And we just don't see builds like that really coming together at the moment. So if I'm being honest, I'm a little unimpressed with some of the other builds in the game right now, and it seems like this Pouty Panda build is the kind of most well-developed build. It is going to take a slight loss here, but with 79 life, if you take 1 loss to like lose by 4 or 5 life, 7 life, alright, that's not the end of the world. You get to the next round, you get another reroll, you have much more gold than everyone else. I feel like that's perfectly acceptable. Swift Panther taking another hit here. Does have the 6 scrappy hunter kind of build. Is running the Deadeye with Bloodseeker. Obviously that's not ideal. You want the Gyrocopter for the Ace of Deadeye effects, but you got to do what you got to do. It does pick up, we see a bunch of good items coming out here. A Butterfly, 2 Moonshards, and a Vladimir's Offering on this scrappy build. Now, Vlad's Offering is probably not at its best with the scrappies because you're not actually taking too much advantage of the lifesteal. A lot of your damage comes from either big impactful casts or kind of like your backline damage dealers who hopefully are not taking too much damage. Like your guys like Timbersaw is not going to take advantage of lifesteal very much. I guess Weaver kind of can, but you need to equip to somebody. Okay, there you go. Equip to the Alchemist. But the armor is still quite good. It's basically 5 armor for most of your board in most cases. So, you know, I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a good item, but it's certainly There's some other builds that take a little bit better advantage of it than Scrappy's, but I'm not going to say it's a bad item by any means. It's still a very strong item. Is getting all lumped up together here by the Eno, and doesn't really hurt him all that much. I mean, the cool thing about the 6 Scrappy build is that pretty much everybody is pretty tanky. It does throw the sniper right into the face of Troll Warlord, and Troll Warlord is more than happy to pick up that free kill on a sniper who just happened to be dropped right in front of him, and does manage to take down Pouty Panda. Or Swift Panther does take down Pouty Panda. Other way around. Sorry. For just a little bit of life. Does not eliminate him, though. It seems to be going to be a close one here for the bottom 3. Fresnel seems to be getting it together, which is kind of unusual because on paper this build doesn't seem great. Like, still rocking 1-star Slark, 1-star Faceless Void, but I guess the 2 stars on everybody in the front line is doing most of the work. It does find the 2-star Faceless Void. That is a huge upgrade. He does so much DPS, especially when you consider the crits. And the fact that most of these builds that remain are at least somewhat reliant on healing, whether it be Scrappy or Warlocks, this assassin build actually might be able to make a run here. As long as I can dodge the brutes, which seems like it's a pretty bad matchup for these assassins. The brutes who don't really rely on healing, and so part of the assassin bonus is kind of wasted, and the brutes obviously reducing the attack damage output of the assassins. Unfortunately, Gripsy does get eliminated here. The brutes are gone, which maybe that clears the way for this assassin build. Okay. And it looks like the assassins are going to even knock out Swift Panther here. No, not quite. It's just 2 damage short. So Swift Panther gets another lease on life here to maybe find that gyrocopter, which would be the biggest improvement you could probably find. I'm not sure that I like this positioning out of Swift Panther. The fact that Medusa is just like stuck in a corner here is bad. Her ability is based on a radius around her, so you really want her to be roughly central on the board, moved up a couple rows, and just she's not in a great spot for that. So yeah, does manage to get another Medusa in just at the end, kind of in an exposed spot, but I guess yep, she's dead. She's dead, Jim. Got what, 2 auto attacks off? If that, 1 auto attack off? Oh boy. Yeah, this build was really hurt by the lack of alchemist, or not alchemists, gyrocopters. But after a lot of attack, this sniper got placed into a relatively safe position, and looks like he will be able to survive through these insects, and does manage to just barely come out on the winning side here. Or not. This Eno, oh okay, no, it's going to win, but just barely. Fresnel takes a big chunk out of Pouty Panda, which was somewhat expected because Pouty Panda relying on 4 Warlocks is going to be very weak to an assassin build, especially one that is finally coming together. It does have the 2-star Slug, the 2-star Faceless Void. Frankly, I'm kind of surprised at this state out of Fresnel. This was a build that seemed like very lost for quite a while when it was running so many different 1-stars that at that point in the game I was surprised they weren't like hemorrhaging more life total for being so weak on the rounds like 20 to 25 range. But once you get past that and you survive with at least a little bit of a leeway here and manage to get into the late game and get all your guys up to 2-star, hey, this build comes together. This build certainly can come together with a 2-star Slug, a 2-star Faceless Void, a Dragonite with a Moon Shard even. Yeah, this build's looking great. Going up against a mainly healing focused build with the Scrappies, and Scrappies are really lacking the damage output. The Medusa is just not getting it done. She's the last one to survive, but this Slark is like, yeah, 1800 DPS. Okay. Pouty Panda, on the other hand, here does manage to take the narrowest of wins, the 2 health Eno. I wish I had watched that whole fight all the way through. Eno surviving at 2 health to win the fight against Phantom Fresnel. Can't get too much closer than that. I guess 1 health would be closer, but that's pretty much the closest you're going to get. So now we're down to a 1v1 here. Patty Panda versus Fresnel. Two of probably our highest ranking players in the game. Patty Panda at 16 and Fresnel. I don't know the rank of Fresnel, but was a top 10 Lord last time I saw them on the leaderboard. So very strong no matter how you slice it, both of these players. I do feel like the Assassins have a slight edge in terms of compositionally, but in terms of like overall who's going to win, Patty Panda probably has a bigger edge because just having 57 life to 19 is such a big advantage that the Assassins need to like not get unlucky so many times. I guess that's different. Not get unlucky, different than getting lucky, I suppose. But it just feels like the Assassins need to like have the fight go their way, like 4 or 5 times or more. Whereas right now, the Warlock Brutes just need to get the fight to go their way once, and Fresnel is eliminated. So if life totals were swapped, I feel like this is a slam dunk, open and shot Assassins win. Because they'll spike one of the games, one of the fights between now and 5 rounds from now. But because it's the way it is, even if Assassins are favored, just because, you know, Assassins tend to beat Warlocks, it's not going to end well for the Assassins, I don't think. We'll see. Is rearranging, doing a lot of rearranging, trying to protect this Troll Warlord. If this 2-star Troll Warlord can do its thing and just kind of go crazy, I guess a 2-star Troll Warlord with a Moon Shard is a really big thing. Does get crit down really quick. Is he eliminated? He is eliminated, the Troll Warlord, very, very fast, and that's going to be that's going to spell disaster here for Patty Panda. Probably going to take a big loss out of this. All attack goes out and bunches people up and knocks him around, but it's not going to be enough here, I don't believe. Life totals are super low. This Bristleback can like just get a quadra kill here in just a second. He doesn't get another shot off, but Patty Panda takes 16, but that doesn't even matter because Patty Panda is still at 46 life. 41 life, rather. Man, what a close one. Over on from Fresnel's perspective, there's not a lot of upgrades you can make at this level. Fresnel's been saving up gold, and it looks like finally has enough to level on this turn if they want to. Did opt to go for it, so that was one consideration. You could wait one more turn to naturally level up, but you might not have one more turn. You might not get there, and Fresnel still needs to put somebody in. Puts the Kunkka in to get a little bit of AoE CC. Makes sense after doing a little bit of rearranging. Not the most impactful thing to throw in at level 10. I mean, it does give you the human bonus, which I guess is not 0, but it's not the greatest. Did get a pretty good Kunkka boat off, though. The Dragon Knight is still relatively untouched, and yeah, that was a really good all-out attack, letting the Dragon Knight just clean up one last target, and this is looking pretty good here. Just Enno versus the world here, but it looks like the Dragon Knight does take another chunk out of Patty Panda. Patty Panda needs to turn this around. Does have 25 more life, so maybe like 2 more combats, 2 more losses. So I guess really just 1 more loss before it's like game over. To really turn this around. Has not yet put in the Disruptor, which I find a little bit unusual for a Warlock build. I guess there's nothing that would really make sense to swap it for. One of the Savages? No, well, no, I don't think any of those make any sense. This is a tough one. I mean, and I guess Disruptor, it's not even that great against Assassins because you just know they're going to be cutting down your healing anyway. The Troll Warlord hasn't get burst down yet, and he's still very healthy. No, does get stunned. He does manage to take out... Oh, does not take out the Slark. Oh, no, he does not. Slark with Mask of Madness. Alright, Patty Panda, you got one more shot at this. I thought Fresnel was going to be going down here once he dropped down to like 1-shot range, but every fight has gone Fresnel's way so far. Since this 1v1 started. Or no, he lost once, but most of them have gone their way. So That's fine. The 2-star disruptor, like, you gotta think that's gotta be better than, like, yeah, better than the Treant at this point. It's not, like, ideal, since now you've got five warlocks and just one druid and one brute, but the Ace of Warlock effect and that disruption field, static field, is nothing to scoff at. Will it be enough? It looks like it might be. They both get their all-out attacks all out at the same time, so everyone's going to get shuffled up. But now the Warlock, all their cooldowns came back up, and that's going to be it. All the Warlock cooldowns came back up, and turns out, getting that Ace of Warlocks, Patty Panda gets the win. Talk about a close one there, where, like I said, Assassins seem to be compositionally favored against the Warlocks. But the huge life total discrepancy means that, like, if you just have one unlucky fight as Assassins, where, like, you just don't get the crits, or you jump to the wrong targets, or whatever goes wrong against you, you're just out. That's why, even though the Warlocks are generally worse against Assassins, I did favor them overall, just because they had so much time. But it came down to just one final fight, and the Warlocks do manage to take the win. Crazy game, huh? Crazy game. But a good game. A very good game there. Fresno getting first and then second place. And Patty Panda, of course, taking down the win there. We still have not seen a huge Legion Commander comp. I'm a little disappointed by that fact, but it is what it is. Still good stuff. Very good stuff there. We've got one more game in this ESL tournament. So we'll see how this all plays out for this round, and then this is the final week of the open qualifiers where anybody can join up. But then starting next week, we'll have the closed qualifiers where only the top half of players that played in the open qualifier will be able to get through. So really wherever we'll be getting the top, the best players out of these few rounds here. The Slark jump trolled and died instantly. Ace of Warlock's not the difference. Yeah, that can definitely be differences. The like where the Assassins jump. If your important Slark jumps on somebody who just kills them off right away, it's not going to end too well for you. And so that's part of the problem with playing Assassins, is that fights like that are very uncontrollable. It's like, I have no way of knowing which one's going to jump to where. Whereas in a lot of other cases, you can, like, kind of line up attackers and defenders to some extent. And so maybe every other fight, the Slark was able to go crazy and not get burst down. But then you just needed it to happen once. You just needed that Slark to go on a suicide mission just once. And then it's all over for the Assassins because they were so low on life. Looks like players are going to be taking a few moments here in between next game. So I guess I will too. Grab a drink. Alright, one more game. I gotta feel like, based on the results of that, the past two games, Fresno is probably going to be a favorite here. I will give a heads up, though. I'll probably not be looking at chat for this game because I want to kind of take it as like a recording. Hey everyone, Tin Man here. We're going to be playing in Game 3 of the ESL Mobile Open Tournament. I'll be casting this tournament once everyone connects in here. We do have a 7-player lobby, as one player was unable to join up in time, but no matter, we'll be seeing what these 7 players can offer. It should be a pretty stacked lobby here with 5 players in Lord of Whitespire, as well as 2 just outside of it, and 1 Dale bot, who of course we're all going to be rooting for this game. In our first 2 games, we saw Fresnel, probably one of the favorites, win 1 game and then come in a very, very close second in the next. So let's follow Fresnel to start off here. Does pick up a Clockwork, a Weaver, and a Nixas. And this is probably like the strongest turn 1 play you can realistically imagine here. Spending all 5 gold, getting the Scrappy bonus, getting the Insect bonus. Like, this is like just the strongest 3-unit composition you can probably make. Here does go up against a Chaos Knight who's very strong, but everybody on the opposing team is attacking the Scrappy bonus Clockwork. So they're not going to get too far as the insects make short work of the backline, and Fresnel takes the first win. We do see Bungum going for at least a first round loss streak. Don't know if they're going to pursue an open fort strategy. They attempted to do that in the beginning of last game and then kind of pivoted out of it, but it didn't really work out too terribly well for them. So we'll keep an eye on that if there's an open fort strategy coming through, but if not, seems like everybody else will be playing the game kind of, normally. I don't really know if you call not open fort normal, but, actually playing the game here in the opening few rounds. Looking around, though, we don't see anybody pick up any 2-star units just yet. Fresnel's the only one that really has a clear direction towards a composition with a few Scrappies and Insects. Scrappy's still a very strong meta comp if they can all come together in a couple different variations, whether it be with more Warlocks, more Deadeyes, or more Hunters, or Dragons even. There's a lot of options. Dragons have slightly fallen out of favor because Dragonite has been hit by a few nerfs and makes it a little bit less appealing, even with the Snapfire still being a strong early inventor. But of course, for right now, even if they don't end up going that way, the Scrappies and Insects is very strong. Otherwise, we see I want to take a look at Swift Panther here. Did take a loss, but does have a build that I really enjoy and I think is a little bit underappreciated, kind of a Heartless focused build with Pudge, Shadow Demon, Beastmaster in particular. You want to be stacking up Heartless, 2 or 4 Heartless with these kind of units, and then also physical damage dealers like Beastmaster and Bristleback in particular, but also some other Hunters, like if you have Drow Ranger for Heartless and Hunters, or just anything else that deals big chunks of physical damage. I actually think those kind of builds are relatively strong and relatively underplayed for how powerful they really can get. The problem is they kind of struggle at 1-star compared to a lot of other builds. They really are dependent on getting that 2-star Beastmaster. Like a 1-star Beastmaster just does nothing. I mean, he gets a big chunk damage with the Wild Axes, but like, it just does nothing here. Certainly it feels like that compared to some 2-star Druids, at least. They do have a little bit of a rough early game if you don't get those early 2-stars, but that's kind of okay, though, because you're going to take these early losses, and I think Swift Panther is on... I know it's 1 and 2, not 0 and 3. I was thinking if you're 0 and 3, then you have a losing streak, you get a bunch of rerolls, and maybe you can convert that into some early 2-stars, but with 1 and 2, still gets the reroll on this turn, but is probably not going to get... any 2-stars here. Does opt to sell off a whole bunch of units, sell off a lot of those Heartless, and just to grab interest to kind of solidify the amount of income they're getting, because they're not going to be winning rounds anytime soon. Going for Dragons, which, as mentioned before, some of the late game Dragons, Dragon Knight, and even Viper, have been somewhat nerfed in recent patches, so they're not quite the default go-to strategy that they used to be. They still can show up from time to time, and a 2-star Viper is still very potent in the early game if you can get that up to 2-star quickly. And so is a 2-star Snapfire, so things are already starting to look up here. Maybe not going towards that brawny, Heartless kind of build that I had alluded to earlier, but that's the nature of games like this. You got to always be flexible and willing to adapt to what you're being given. So looking around here, we do see Bungum still on a losing streak, not going full open fort, but still losing nonetheless. Does have Warriors here, and Warriors are something I do want to talk about because Warrior builds have been, I'll say, much maligned ever since Tidehunter got removed from the game in the rotation of units, and seeing they've been nerfed since they were so meta, and then they lost some of their best units, and then individual units got nerfed again, and they just really haven't found their place in the game. But after a couple of buffs back to their alliance, they get a couple more armor early on. I actually been reasonably impressed by the power level of 3 warriors in particular. Tiny, Tusk, Slarder, maybe Juggernaut, if you want in the early game, if you can get him. But these 3 actually make a really strong core. We actually see these 3 units take down Patty Panda, who had 4 units, and arguably what seemed like a stronger comp, right? You had 4 units here. You had the Savage bonus. You had still had 2 2-stars, but it didn't matter. Just the 3 warriors was strong enough to take them down with no other alliances active. And I think that's a testament to how powerful this particular trio is in the early game, before rounds 10 or 15. And honestly, this can make up a good nucleus for a lot of different builds. You can transition this into a heavier Savage build with the Tusk. I mean, you might cut Tusk eventually, but he serves as a good bridge into like the Lone Druid, the Bristleback, the Sand King in the later stages of the game. Or you can just go a more physical damage focused build with a Slarder giving the minus armor for lots of physical damage and all kinds of other stuff. So I do think this is a good core to be starting to build from, especially if you get them up to 2-star early on. Looking around the table, though, Band is still in first place with 100% life, still untouched there up at the top. Let's take a look at what's going on over there. Does have the Scrappy and Insects, which is what I think we saw Fresnel start off with, but this is a slightly different take on it. Does have a kind of diverse bench here, which I guess represents the kind of diverse board. Not really a clear direction towards like a late game build at this point. Obviously, it's still early, but the board has the Tiny, which doesn't really fit into too many late game comps since Warriors are kind of on the downswing, and Insects, of course, do fall off towards later stages of the game as well. Perhaps Scrappies, but there's nothing really on the bench that represents towards Scrappies. We've got some Druids, we've got some Knights, we've got some Warlocks, we've got some Trolls, just got a little bit of everything here. And I feel like we cast or cursed them because they do take a loss on this round. So now nobody is undefeated. Everybody's relatively even in terms of overall life total and strength. We do see Gripsy running 4 Knights, though, currently in first place in terms of life total, running 4 Knights. Now, this is unusual. 4 Knights have really struggled, I'll say, ever since the removal of Luna. Same kind of deal with Warriors, which I think is fair because Warriors and Knights were so dominant before that rotation that it's only fair that they take a little bit of a back seat for a little while. But from time to time, we do see a variety of Knights builds pop up, and if they're uncontested and they get their upgrades early, they're not actually that bad. There's actually like some really strong units within the Knights composition. Omni Knight in particular, I think this Purification being on a shorter cooldown now, it scales in its cooldown from 10, 8 to 6 seconds. I think it's actually a really powerful ability. A 2-star Omni Knight can really carry the game in the early and mid stages. Same with pretty much every 3-cost unit. Abaddon 2-star, Omni Knight 2-star, etc. are all really strong early on. Does take a little bit of a loss there to Swift Panther, who was on a losing streak before that, but once again, that just speaks to the parity of this particular game, where no one is too far out of it and no one is running away with it either. Certainly no big win streaks are going to be completed here, at least not for a little while. We do see Bungum is the only one on any sort of win streak, as Gripsy does pick up a 2-star Chaos Knight and 2-star Bat Rider, and has the pair of the other Knights on the total, has not completed those up yet. But once all those get up to 2-star, that is a super strong build. And of course the 2-star Chaos Knight, a big improvement. I don't know if it's going to be enough against this 2-star Treant with a Vanguard and a Doom. That's a pretty early Doom to give the Brute bonus. But yeah, I don't think it's going to work out. They just cannot possibly punch through this Treant Protector. He is just so tanky with his Vanguard. And not to mention the CCs from the trolls in the back. Going to take another loss here against that. On the other hand, we do see Bungum continuing this win streak here with his Warrior Core. I'd be very curious to see where this Warrior build ends up going. We do see, I thought we'd see the end of this fight. Oh, I guess it's already over. In any case, let's still talk about it. The IO here gives Primordial bonus, but I don't think that's really the key point here. The key point is that Slarder slaps so hard, 170 damage, 142 DPS is really high in the early game. Those are high numbers compared to Tusk's like 88, Tiny's 92, Lycan's 65, etc. This 142 is huge. So giving the bonus attack speed from the tether, and not to mention the damage reduction as well, is just so effective on Slarder. It does go up against Gripsy here running the Knights build, nice and cornered up, but that means they are very vulnerable to getting tossed around by Tiny Toss here, and of course Slarder just slapping real hard with that Orb of Venom as well. Now that Orb of Venom has been modified, it now says the attacks, the equipped hero's attacks are poisoned, so it'll stack up the poison debuff, which will deal 15 damage per second per stack for 5 seconds, maxing out at 5 stacks, and then also reduce the opponent's healing by 5% over that time. So very effective on a fast attacking unit like a Slarder with an IO attached. We do pick up some Underlords here. It does pick up the all-out attack Eno, who most recently introduced Underlord to the game, and I think is a very, very strong pick. I love me some all-out attack Eno, and it seems like the players agree, as we have 3 players going for that version of Eno. Band has picked up Happy Hour Jull, which I think makes sense if you're going to have a more healing-centric build with things like Warlocks and Treant Protectors. His damage reduction means that your healing has more time to take effect. And then we see 2 players on a Nessex Golem, both Gripsy with the Knights. Makes a ton of sense if you want to go healing Knights. And Swift Panther, who I'm not entirely sure what they're up to. And Fresnel picks up damage dealing in Essex. Damage dealing in Essex has often kind of been the, the least popular build of an Essex, but she's been buffed repeatedly, and I kind of think that the Enthrall is very powerful if it does succeed. If you do manage to kill the Enthrall target, it is a very powerful effect. Unfortunately, we... oh, that's Dale. That was the bot. That was not Fresnel. I do think it's a very powerful effect if you can successfully kill that Enthrall target. But if not, it's obviously pretty weak. So, we've got 2 players on big win streaks, both Pouty Panda and Bungum here at the top of the tables. I'm just really fascinated with this Bungum build because the Warriors, like I said, it builds into so many different things. The Warriors build into Warlocks, because you grab Scaled and Savage between Venomancer, and then Shadow Fiend gives you Demons, and he's just an insanely powerful Warlock. Gives you the option to go into more Brawnies with like Juggernaut, Bristleback, also grabbing Savages, and it's just such a strong core build that I think is a little bit underplayed at the moment, and I'm really glad to see this being picked up here. And Kunkka, also a great late game warrior, probably generally replaces Tiny, unless you want to go up to 6 warriors, which has been rare to see in the recent meta, but you know, if there's ever time to do it, this is probably the time to go for 6 warriors, this particular build. That Doom had a Blink Dagger in and then immediately got blown up by pretty much everybody. The Hex goes out on the IO, but that's not that important because Hex does not stop Tether. And so, yeah, IO can't attack because it's Hexed, but the Tether is the important part here, and the Tether still is successful. Bungum continuing dominance of this lobby. 7 rounds in a row, probably going to complete the win streak if they are able to hold serve for one more turn here. Let's take a look over at Pouty Panda, who's also trying to complete a win streak. Actually, I just cast curse them, of course, and they take... Wait, do they take a loss here? Eno, hello. No chance Eno wins this, right? No. Close. But not quite. Okay, so Pouty Panda does go down just barely here to Gripsy, who's got the Knights build. This Knights build, 5 Knights already has dragons. It's a 1-star Dragon Knight, but that was still enough to win that last fight. Still looking for that 2-star Abaddon, and of course 2-star on the Dragon Knights, but this is a build that has been around since the inception of Underlords. You just run as many Knights as you can, get up to 6, run Dragon Knight as your damage dealer, and then your Knights on the front line are just unkillable. So there's some different support units you can throw around with it, but the core idea is the same here, is just protect the Dragon Knight, and of course you have reasonable damage output from a lot of your other frontliners. The Abaddon, even though he's kind of like a healing, tanky kind of unit, actually does a ton of damage with his Aphotic Shield. Maybe not at 1-star, but Omni Knight, same kind of deal, actually deals a lot of damage with Purification. It's kind of the one I was talking about earlier, is a 2-star Omni Knight is a big carry. Does manage to take down the win there. Bungum does complete the win streak against Dalebot. Kind of got a little bit of a bye on that final round to complete the win streak, but still a very strong build. I did want to see what was it, Pouty Panda was running. Did lose the win streak, but was still going pretty strong for a while. Is running this kind of a little bit of visual bug here, but is running a I guess this is almost like a Legion Commander comp, right? Doesn't have the Legion Commander, but does have like a lot of the 2-of alliances that you typically see in Legion Commander comps. You got the Druids, you've got the Warlocks, the Savage, the Brutes. These are like very common. If there was a Legion Commander in here, it would make perfect sense. As well as the Demons. Does not have Legion Commander because she wasn't able to show up early and get that online. But this is still a reasonably potent build. We actually saw, I think it was Pouty Panda as well, last game, was running something very similar to this and had a big win streak early on, despite only having 2 units up to 2-star. Just had the Venomancer and Shadow Fiend, I think, to 2-star, and everything else was 1-star, but still managed to get on like a win streak last game with a similar build, just on the back of, I think it was 4 Savages, 4 Warlocks, or something like that. Plus the Druids, and it was pretty impressive to see, and that just goes to show the power of this style of build to be a little bit star level independent. Is running up against a little bit tougher competition here and doesn't have the 2-star Shadow Fiend, which I think is a big part of that build. So unfortunately not going to be getting the big win streak here, but still doing reasonably well for themselves, even though they take a little bit of a loss here. It's a relatively narrow loss, all things considered.
Well played.
Let's take stock of the overall lobby and see where people are at. We actually see 2 players going towards a Knights build. Gripsy, who we've looked at a couple of times, and Sleep as well, going for a 6 Knight build. Now that's a little bit unusual. Just seeing multiple players going after Knights is weird, because they're not even that great when you're uncontested. They're kind of a mid to low tier strategy, I'd say. So seeing 2 people after them is probably going to hurt both of them in the long run. We didn't see anybody really going for a Mage's comp that would really deal big bursts of magic damage that would really punish people for not picking up Scaled. It's typically very potent against things like Savages or builds that don't have a tanky alliance, or Scrappies as well. We do see Fresnel, who won our first game and got 2nd place in our last game, is running this build. I don't really know what this build is, but it's working. So it's running a whole bunch of 1-star units. Like, it's literally just has a 2-star Ember Spirit and then a 1-star Doom, 1-star Doom, Treant, Sand King, Lone Druid, Nyx. This is actually very similar to what we saw Fresnel running the first 2 games, where it felt like a very late developing composition. And I find this very interesting because I know Fresnel is a very high-ranking player. Last time I played in a tournament with Fresnel, he was in the top 5 players in the rankings. And so I'm very curious as to how this build works and like what the game plan is here, because like I said, this is very similar to what they've done in the past few games. Is kind of this, do whatever you want in the early game, and then try to transition into this late game Assassins build. Picking up the Queen's Pain, the Bounty Hunter, the Viper, and there's apparently a lot of faith from Fresnel that 6 Assassins is like the truth, is like the best thing you can be doing in the meta right now. And there may be some shred of truth to that, because there's nobody else running Assassins. But at the same time, like, there's not a lot of health total left. You're down to 42. Your gold total is like okay, but it's not insane. You're not at level 8 yet. You don't have max interest. I'm not feeling it out of this build. And I feel like if you just don't hit your timings, if you don't hit your 2-star Slark, like almost by now, like by round 20 probably at the latest, to try to find that 2-star Slark and get a good item for it, which we don't see any good item here. Generally you're looking for Mask of Madness or Moon Shard later on for the Slark. Hand of Midas is it's almost acceptable, but it's not great. I do feel like this build is going to struggle if it doesn't really come together. We'll keep some tabs on that as it goes, but I want to take a look over at Band here, who did pick up a 2-star Legion Commander. This will be the first Legion Commander we've seen in this tournament today, which is a little bit surprising. I know she's a very popular meta build to build around her, but getting around round 16? It's too late. That is really late to get a Legion Commander. She is really heavily dependent on getting that early duel damage wins, and she's not even going to win a duel on this round, and probably not even going to win the overall fight. This is not looking good for Band here, who's already low on health total. Is probably going to take another loss here because that all-out attack just really disrupted that kind of nice, clean front-to-back team fight, and the Warlocks are going to get time to get their cooldowns back up and get a big heal off and deal a big chunk of 14 over to Band here. We do see Bungum and Grip Z going up against each other. Both of them had a big win streak. Bungum does come out the better end of that, but only narrowly with this Warlock build. Does seem to be committing towards 6 warriors. The most obvious 6 warrior would be Troll Warlord, because that obviously is like a damage source in his own right. And from here, Bungum could level up to 9 and then 10, add in Troll Warlord. And I guess you would cut the Lone Druid, the 1-star. You might not even want to cut the Lone Druid, but just level up, put in Troll Warlord, put in... Or you'd probably swap the Io then for Shadow Shaman. You lose Primordials, but that's not the end of the world. And you grab Trolls. Or just level up and put in Witch Doctor to grab Warlocks, and also grab Trolls here. That's assuming you get the Troll Warlord, which, you know, I'm really excited to see a warrior build. If you had asked me a few months back... about like, oh, somebody's playing a 6 warrior build, it would be like, how many people are playing it? It's like you'd expect like 3 or 4 people per lobby to be playing this kind of build, but now after the changes in the meta and everything that's happened, this is like kind of exciting to see kind of this build being successful again. He's going up against Band and is probably going to do a big chunk of damage to Band here. Maybe not. This Shadow Fiend does manage to survive. Okay, so that's going to deal a bit more. Band takes 11 damage, drops down to 10 life. Basically, in single elimination mode, Band, one more loss is probably going to knock them out. I'm a big fan of what Bungum's doing here, though. Just one way away from getting 19 total armor on all of the front lines. That is going to make them nearly immune to physical damage. I mean, not quite, you know, but it's still going to be a huge amount of tankiness that is going to serve them very well, especially against high physical damage comps like the Assassins, or even Knights are often high physical damage because they're relying on like slow and steady auto attacks from guys like Chaos Knight, or I guess Dragon Knight has some magic damage baked in, but still they're not like very high damage comps that are like going to burst you out with like magic damage. And this is also a good time to be doing this because there's no mages in the lobby to exploit your lack of magic resistance. So we'll see how this goes. Can Bungum continue this win streak? It's looking pretty likely here. Double all-out attack, so things are going to get a little weird, but the Io does come back with a Tusk, and so that's going to almost certainly assure that Bungum's able to take this win here. Certainly will. Fresnel, the player who's been doing well so far in this tournament, and we said we need to keep an eye on their kind of forced assassin build. It's not really working. Unfortunately, Band does get eliminated here. Band was running the Legion Commander comp that came together a little bit too late. Didn't really get the Legion Commander until round 16 or so, and that's not what you want to be doing. She really has no time to scale when you get her that late. So we do see Fresnel pick up the Faceless Void, but is down to 0 gold. And if we look at the pack there, does have to sell off some stuff to get this 2-star Queen of Pain, and this is not looking good. Like, look how many 1-stars are still on the board. Faceless Void, Nyx Assassin, Dragon Knight. Yeah, I do feel like that this build was very much forced to be assassins from the get-go. Partially because, you know, there wasn't a good assassin build to be had in the early game for Fresnel here, but also because we've seen him do this forced assassin build in previous games, and it hasn't worked. Looks like it's going to actually survive one more turn here against Grip Z somehow. The Queen of Pain 2-star really pulling a lot of weight in this particular fight. Grip Z maybe... No, I was going to say it would be at a weak point actually here, but actually this looks like a pretty strong point for the Knights, being all stacked up against Ember Spirits, AoE, same with Queen of Pain. They have pretty good items for these two units, the Kaya and the Desolator. Doesn't have the great item for the Slark, who would hopefully be the very late game carry, but the other units do have pretty decent items on them, all things considered. Looking around the table here, we also see Swift Panther in some trouble here running the Scrappy build. It does have the Gyrocopter, which is kind of the big turning point for Scrappies. Scrappies are very strong in the early game when you get 2 and 4 Scrappies right away, but they kind of fall off towards the mid game when they have 5 or 6 Scrappies. And before they get like the real big damage sources. But once you get the Gyrocopter and get the Ace of Deadeye online, your power level really starts to ramp up, and they do manage to get that. We'll see if it'll be enough here. It does basically have just like one more loss to give, one more narrow loss. It does look like they're going to be able to take down Sleep here, running another Knights comp. Both these Knights players, I think, are kind of showing why Knights are maybe a little bit less popular than you'd typically expect, or what they previously are. They're okay, but when they lack some star levels on units, specifically Dragon Knight, who's still a highly contested unit in a lot of other builds. Like, let's take a look at how many Dragon Knights are being picked up. We got 3 players on Dragon Knights. It's the Assassins and the Knights, and in past, oftentimes the Scrappies would pick up Dragon Knights because you'd want to run Snapfire plus Dragon Knight. So some versions of Scrappy also want it. And so with Dragon Knight being so contested and the Knights kind of heavily dependent on Dragon Knight, like for their damage output more so than really any other comp, I do fear that maybe it's a little weak here. Gripsy does pick up everything on their board to 2-star. That was a huge turn. Picking up the 2-star Dragon Knight and the 2-star Necrophos. That is really big. Necrophos, I think, really wants a mana item. Does not have one here, so he's going to struggle to cast like super reliably. He's going to like gain his mana very slowly. But still, like the 2-star Dragon Knight is probably just going to win this. Going up against the 1-star Dragon Knight who doesn't even have Dragon bonus. Yeah, this Dragon Knight seems strong. Does get hit by the all-out attack, which is going to really mess up their formation. I don't think it's really going to hurt them that much, though. They were already very well ahead, and Dragon Knight is still splashing pretty good and is still very much alive. That is looking pretty strong here for Gripsy up against Sleep here. Pouty Panda, unfortunately, does get eliminated. I guess we hadn't looked over at Pouty Panda for a while. I was running the Warlock build. I was kind of surprised it took 20 damage all at once. Was running the Warlock Savage build, which I guess just struggled in the early game. We've seen this Warlock Savage build do really strong in the early game, but they do need to get a couple of key units up to 2-star, and apparently Pouty Panda just was not able to really turn that corner and really get things all going there. I want to take another look at Fresnel, who's been hanging on by a thread here, just at 7 life, but does have the 2-star Dragon Knight now, does have the 2-star Slark, and most other things the 2-star is up against Grip Z, who did hit that big power spike just recently, so it'll be a very close one, but it's nice and stacked up formation against these Assassins, which I gotta feel like favors the Assassins. The Queen of Pain, the Ember Spirit just shredding through these stacked Knights here, and of course the healing emphasis from Necrophos and healing in Essex not going to be doing too terribly much work here against the Assassin debuff. Wow, this is You know, I was kind of down on Fresnel's strategy here a little bit earlier, saying that, you know, this forcing assassin build maybe not the best of ideas, but you know, I'm being pleasantly surprised here. The ability to kind of turn things around here at a very low life total, sub 10 life, is kind of impressive at the moment. We do see, I mean, it could still very easily get eliminated in 5th place, which would obviously be pretty bad. But Swift Panther also dropping pretty low, did take a win there with this Scrappy build. It's kind of curious, the formation, by the way. We see the Scrappy has moved up their Deadeyes, who have basically infinite range. And that's unusual because, like, why would you, if they have infinite range, why wouldn't you just put them in the back? But it's to protect them against the assassins, which they know that Fresnel is an assassin player in the lobby, and actually they guessed correctly, they are going to go up against Fresnel. So now the Gyrocopter and Sniper are not the first ones jumped on by the assassins. Unfortunately, they still kind of get caught in the crossfire here. At least they die pretty quickly. The 1-star Sniper not really doing the damage necessary, or not nearly as tanky as he needs to be to win this fight. I do think the assassins, and especially the damage dealing in Nessex, the Enthrall, being a big part of this fight here, is probably going to knock out Swift Panther here in 5th place. Fresnel at least secures a top 4 finish with that victory here. Let's hop over to Sleep, who could get eliminated with a big loss here. Does not look like it's going to be that big one way or the other. Not 14 damage big. So we'll still fight for another day. Does look like Sleep will take a loss here. Oh, this might be 14 actually. Hold on. This Lone Druid didn't die. This might be 14 exactly. I haven't counted. Oh no, Lone Druid dies at the very end. Yeah, if Lone Druid survived, I guess that's 3 damage more. Because he's a 4-cost unit at 2-star, so it would be deal 3 damage. The formula is a little bit wacky. But he would deal 3 damage there and still would have survived. So very close game here. Very impressed by the resilience of some of these players to just barely be hanging on here. And to see 2 Knights players in the top 4 and to see a Warrior build at the top of the standings right now is frankly quite impressive. I want to take another look at the Warrior, who does find the 6th Warrior, does not have the Troll Warlord, which would be the ideal one. Just has to settle for the Earth Spirit, which, you know, Earth Spirit's not a great warrior. Like, his CC is worse than something like Tiny, it's worse than something like Kunkka. His damage output is obviously worse than Slarder or Tusk or something, but, you know, when you just need your 6th Warrior, he basically says, give everybody else on your team plus 10 armor, or every other warrior on your team plus 10 armor. I guess you'll put up with it. And you'll say, alright, I'll play this relatively bad warrior just because all my other warriors get supercharged. And it's working. It's working very well here up against Gripsy, who's probably the biggest competition with still running 50 life. A solid win, maybe not a convincing win because it's... actually, some of the units do fall, so it's not even that big. Unfortunately, Sleep does get eliminated by Fresnel on the other board, so now there's just 1 Knights players left as Fresnel continues his rather miraculous comeback from 7 life and what I thought was left for dead with a whole bunch of 1-star units on the board. But did manage to find up that 2-star Dragonite, 2-star Slark, 2-star Queen of Pain, and Sand King, and has managed to really pull it together here at 7 life, so really showing why Fresnel is such a high-ranked player. And maybe this forcing assassin strat has some merit to it, at the very least in this lobby where no one else seems to have an interest in playing assassins. It's worked well for him every game so far. That being said here, there's always this kind of risk that somebody, like one of your big carries like Slark or somebody, just gets burst down really quick, just jumps in and takes a Dragonite's hit to the face for a few times and just dies off. It's kind of close here. Looking like Gripsy is actually going to get the better end of Fresnel here. This Sven is still up, and a God Strength Sven does a ton of damage, and it looks like Fresnel's comeback run has come to an end, eliminated in 3rd. But rather miraculous when I thought, honestly, by all appearances, it looked like Fresnel was going to be dropping out in 6th a lot earlier on. To be able to climb back and get up into 3rd is certainly a testament to the strength of an assassin build when it finally does all come together, even if it's a touch weaker when it's not kind of fully formed. Alright, so now we've got, in our final 2, we've got a 6 warrior build up against a 6 knights build. And the knights build seems a bit... well, the knights... Actually, both builds seem relatively like well developed. The warrior build here has got everybody to 2-star except the troll warlord, who's obviously going to be a little bit of a struggle to get up to 2-star. Does have the very powerful Vladimir's offering, which gives you even more armor to your team. And the warrior build is typically a little bit lacking in damage output, since you're obviously investing heavily in a defensive alliance. So that extra damage is very welcome. And lifesteal, most of your damage comes from auto attacks from things like Slarter, Juggernaut, Troll Warlord, or even like the Bear, the Lone Druid Bear. So this lifesteal is very important in this build. It's certainly a very strong item on its own right, but in particular in this build. I didn't quite catch what items Grip Z has. We'll take a look on that other side, because this is going to go on for a few rounds here, obviously with both players having above 40 life. It'll probably take a few rounds to sort this all out, and it's pretty close here. We do see the all-out attack Eno being a very strong ultimate here, just really messing up the clean front-to-back kind of team fight that Knights really want. They want you to be attacking their very tanky Omni Knights and Abaddons first, but it apparently didn't really matter, because the Troll Warlord for the Knights got dropped in a really nice spot and was just able to continue DPSing just untouched. You could easily see that fight going differently if that Troll Warlord gets dropped in the middle of the Warriors and get burst down, but it worked out pretty well here. So we do see this Knights build has a much better item on their Troll Warlord, the Moon Shard. The bonus attack speed plus 80 attack speed is so much more impactful on Troll Warlord than the what was it, the Silver Edge we saw over here, which just gives plus 30 attack speed, because attack speed scales so well for Troll Warlord, because you just want to be constantly stacking up faster and faster, that it makes a huge difference any more attack speed that you have, because it just exponentially grows with him. So very strong here, and of course the healing in Essex with no real anti-healing. I guess the Eno has some anti-healing properties with his poison, but not quite enough. And this golem constantly being cast right after that all-out attack, and lack of like focus fire down on this golem seems to be leaning in the favor of the Knights build, actually, as Gripsy takes another win off Bungum, only for 12 damage this time. So Bungum still has, at this pace, still has 2 more losses to give before really being on the border of elimination. But that is, it seems to be a consistently winning strategy here, this Knights up against the Warriors strat. The Warriors have even leveled up one more time than the Knights. I don't know if that'll make a difference. Does have a Gyrocopter now. Now, Gyrocopter is good against stacked up opponents like Knights, but I think a 2-star Troll Warlord, that's going to be the big difference here. That's a 2-star Troll Warlord for Knights. I gotta really favor 2-star Troll Warlord. It doesn't even have Mask on us, but Moonshard is just as good, if not better, assuming he's not actually getting attacked or hit by any damage output. And he's got his own like couple healers here anyway. The Necrophos and an Essex, and the Troll Warlord and Dragonite get placed in a nice spot by the random all-out attack, not getting hit by any of the damage sources, and just getting to go to town here and gonna clean up this fight very nicely. Gyrocopter dealing pretty good damage, but definitely nothing on par with this Troll Warlord 2-star, who's just absolutely a beast. At this rate, one more win will probably take Bungum out of the fight, and I would say that you really want to do it on this round, because otherwise, if you give up a loss here and let Bungum take a win, you may potentially get obviously Bungum is going to hit a power spike whenever a 2-star Troll Warlord or a 2-star Disruptor or Gyrocopter or like some 2-star 5-cost unit comes along, or if they get another good item. If they're able to level to get to around 30 and get like a Moonshard or something for the Troll Warlord, that would be another kind of big point of power. And so it's very clear that Grip Z and the Knights is stronger right now, so you really want to be able to close this out while you still have your power spike. And we'll see where they randomly get distributed here, but the Troll Warlord and Dragonite still safe in the backline and untouched by most of the damage output, and it looks like they're just going to clean up this fight and just a quick count. That looks like that's going to be 14 damage here. 16 damage, in fact, as Grip Z, with a Knights build, manages to take down this lobby. This was a very impressive win, I'll say. Seeing not only Knights win, but also competing against another Knights player in the top 4 for some units, and winning in rather convincing fashion. But I do want to emphasize the real diversity of this meta. We saw some Knights builds, we saw some Warriors, we saw Scrappies, we saw Warlock Savages, and Legion Commander build kind of failed, but lots of good variety in what we saw available here, and to see Knights come out on top is a pretty big accomplishment. So congrats to Gripsy for winning this final round of the ESL Mobile Open. Of course, this is the final week of the Open qualifiers, and starting next week we'll be casting the closed qualifiers, where the top half of players from these Open qualifiers will be playing, trying to get on to stage 3 and then on to the grand finals at ESL 1 Los Angeles in March. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Alright, I just did my normal thing for videos because I want to clip that out, and we're gonna just post that as its own video at some point. But that was sweet. That was a sweet sweet game. Sorry I didn't read any chat during it, but was focused. I'm gonna take a drink. Ooh. Remember when you learned to drink water? Yeah, I forgot how to do that. Sweet stuff there. Knights got you there. Yeah, it was really sweet. That was a good build. I liked it. That was a really nice build there. Cool Knights. A lot of cool builds. I like the Warrior build too. I like the 6 Warriors coming up strong there. It was really good. All right. I will. I think I might be done here for the night. Just wanted to be casting these matches, but I've got some other work to do tonight, and I'm gonna try to clip that out and make it its own standalone video for ESL. But yeah, we'll be back. Probably not tomorrow because I'll be doing a Super Bowl party here at my place. And then we'll be getting into casting the close qualifiers starting next week, as I mentioned before. But thank you all so very much for hanging out and watching the tournament. It was a ton of fun. Some really great matches. Really impressed by a lot of the gameplay we saw there and the strategies coming out. Really good stuff. So have a nice night, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.